Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Cardiff Central podcast. As ever, I'm Harley. I'm joined as usual by Carmen and Dan. I would ask how you're doing, but I'm far too excited to introduce our very special guest. It is the man known as Jockey, head coach of Cardiff Rugby, Matt Sherratt. How are you doing, Matt?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you all.
Yeah, great to have you on, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, so just to sort of jump straight into sort of the list of questions we've got in. So first of all, we've had two very key retirements over the last week or so. So could you just give a sort of couple of words to sum up what Ellis and Josh have meant, being around the environment and what you thought of them in your time being at Cardiff?
Yeah, obviously I've had two stints at Cardiff. So obviously first one with Danny, I think it's 2015 to 18. And then obviously this last one for the last 3 years. And two players that have played a massive part in my career, really. Obviously, really enjoyed my first spell there, and they were two senior players then, probably in a little bit of a different role. They were more still key players. Ellis was obviously captain, but obviously we had the likes of Mellon and Gareth Anscombe and Sam Warburton and Matthew Rees and a few more who were the probably elder statesmen, I would say, at that time. And they were brilliant, great players for the club and great people to work with. And then probably in this spell, I've seen them both be good players, but also probably play a little bit of a different role in the squad as well, with mentoring some of the younger players. And if I'm honest as well, obviously it's my first stint as a head coach. They've been good for me as well. They've been really supportive, a good good, give good advice, and yeah, just all round good Cardiff players and Wales rugby players, really.
Yeah, on Ellis, I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and I think he said that he'd said early on in the season that he was thinking this was his last one and told yourselves, or something along those lines, or hinted it might. Were there any temptations to try and coax him out of it and change his mind? Is this because he's played really well, hasn't he, this season, especially?
He's way too expensive. So. No, not really. I think it was actually interesting, really. I think they don't mind me staying, but Josh, I think, really wrestled with retirement. He was obviously really keen to get through the season. He had a tough injury to get past, and I think his wrestle with retirement almost kind of summarised his career. He's a pretty resilient person, Josh Turnbull, and he fought to the very end. He fought to get back on the pitch, and what a great occasion it was to see him running out with his kids and his wife at the Arms Park. And I think after that game, he probably had put so much effort and emotional effort into getting there. I think after that, he kind of come to terms with retiring, but it took him a little while. I remember Ellis just on the side of the pitch, casually after we finished training, come up to me and said, and I really appreciate this actually from Ellis as well. He said, just so you don't have to make any tough decisions at the end of the season, I just want to let you know I'm going to retire. And for him to do that, I know it doesn't seem a lot, but for me as a first year head coach, for him to tell me early and take that decision away it epitomises what he's about. He's firstly thought about what it would be like for me having to make that decision, but secondly, it gave us real clarity on what we needed to try and bring in as well. So I know it's only a little story, but I think that epitomises Ellis as well. And probably to say as well, he seems very comfortable with Ellis as well. I think he's obviously got Sophie and a little boy, Jack, and I think he wants to be fit and healthy and not hobbling around in the garden playing football with Jack. I still think he wants to give Jack a decent game, but looking at him, I think Jack's slightly better than him already, and he's about 18 months, I think. So.
Matt, you touched on it there with how Ellis and Josh have helped with your transition. What's it been like stepping up as head coach? Because we've had coaches in the past talk about how they frustrated with more sort of meeting room time than than paddock time. Is that something you've struggled with, or what has been the main things to take away from stepping up?
Not really, no. I think without sounding like an old time, I've been coaching professionally since 2003. So I've been in the game for 21 seasons. It's my 13th year as a senior coach. So I've been really fortunate to work with some good head coaches like Andy Robinson, Sean Holly, obviously Danny Wilson. I mean, I worked with Rob Howley, Sean Edwards, and I think I've seen enough coaches to kind of, and I've got enough of a support network to get good advice. So I've made sure to answer that question that I've kept on the field. So like, I know my strength is probably meeting rooms and with the players, that is, and on the pitch. So I've made sure I've coached the attack and the backs this season and kept led the tactical stuff, because that's my that's what I love doing, and that's my strength really. I said on Monday, actually, I come onto the pitch Monday, and I'd had a few meetings Monday morning, and I almost, when I step onto the pitch, I feel I get my energy back. So I've just made sure that I've kept doing that, and Danny Wilson actually gave me that advice. He's like, it's your technical ability as a coach that gets you a head coach's job. Like, don't forget that. Make sure you keep doing it. Otherwise, you kind of lose your unique selling point, if you like.
It sort of follows on to the next sort of combined two. So obviously we've had the news that Richie Reese will be leaving the club after what seems like forever, to take up an exciting opportunity at Haberdashers. Does that mean you're going to lean more into taking over the attack, or are there plans to get another attack coach in to help out?
Yeah, we'll get another attack coach in to help out. So obviously, Richie's done like our skills program and some of our line out and scrum attack. I've obviously still done all our phase attack and counter attack and close line attack. So that probably the main body of the attack I've kept. I'm really keen on having a coach in, and Richie's been excellent at it. Someone who can take a little bit of the load off me with a set piece attack, but also you can see from the makeup of our squad, we've got a young squad really. So having someone in the coaching team who can just focus on individual development as well. So someone who can stay out and kick with Ellis Bevan and practice high ball with Jacob Beetham and Cam Winnett, and make sure that Mason's working on his defensive reads and things like that. That stuff can kind of get missed if you're just looking at the big picture, which is, I still enjoy that stuff, but I think it's really important as a club. I'll be honest, I want us to have the best coaching staff, firstly, to start with in Wales. So I want us to have the best programme in Wales, where if there's a young Welsh player who wants to come back into Wales, they look at our coaching staff and look at our environment and think, this is where I'm going to develop. So I think having that coach who kind of can just have that microscopic view on individuals is really important. So yeah, I'm pleased for Richie, because he's going into a really good job and he's been brilliant for the club. But we will try and get someone in who's gonna help as well.
That part of, you mentioned, talking about the coaching staff, is that what you've sold to the likes of Stefan Manuel, Tom Bowen, Sheedy to a lesser extent possibly, but about their development and their future as well at the club?
Yeah, and if I'm honest, well, that's my background as well. So I started coaching as a community rugby coach in 2003, I think it was. I coached a local team in Gloucester under 15s, and I've coached tag rugby, I've coached disability rugby, I've coached schools. So my background has been like development. So I love watching the young kids come through. It's been a breath of fresh air. So yeah, the likes of Tom Bowen and Steph, it's easy to talk about it. That's the only thing, is it's just making sure. I think we've proved really this season. Obviously, I'll still be there next year. Gethin signed a full-time contract. Cornelius coming in from London Irish and Ealing, he's a top coach, and we'll get another in as well to look at the the skills and attacking side of the game. So it's important when players come in, we can improve them, and that's the same with Callum Sheedy. Like whether it's Stefan Manuel or Callum Sheedy, I need to be able to say to Sheedy is, listen, you've played in the Premiership for 10 years, but we can improve this part of your game, because probably what I've learned from coaching like top end players like Utobis and Josh Adams and Gareth Anscombe's, Alan Wynne-Jones, they still want to get better. That's why they're the best players. So, and I know it's tough sometimes as a supporter, but that's probably going back to our narrative of we need to win off the field first. We need to have good facilities, good coaches, and we may have to be a little bit more patient with the on the field stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, well, moving on to the on the field stuff there, though, looking back to Friday night, obviously it's probably a bit of a same old story, isn't it? From Munster and Glasgow, we've played really well, but we've not quite come away with the victory. What were the boys like on Monday morning? How do you sort of pick them up looking ahead to Edinburgh, and quite a big game, last one at the Arms Park this weekend?
Probably take you to straight after the game, really. It was obviously, I'll be honest with you, it's quite an emotional loss, that one. I've been through one loss like it before, which was worse than that one, if I'm honest. I was coaching Bristol when, I don't know if you remember, they lost to Worcester in the Championship playoff final.
Yeah. And
we were 13 points up with 7 minutes to go. Dwayne Peel got yellow carded, which I've never forgiven him for. And our Samoan international, Jack Lamb, got yellow carded, and we lost last kick of the game. And I can remember kind of almost lying on the pitch at 6 ways thinking it can't get much lower than this. So, and it hasn't yet. But if I'll be honest with you, Ulster was pretty tough to take emotionally. Not from a personal perspective. I see what the players put in the week, and they're in a really good place. Like genuinely as a team, like there's a good bond there. There's good feel in the group, and I thought they put so much effort into that game, and we actually played really well as well. It was a pretty cruel way to lose at the end there. It was one of those. It was why sports are good, and we went from winning by 8 points to a TMO review to losing by 2. So I kind of come on the pitch after, and it's difficult to know what to say at those times because there's a fair few emotions running. But the first words I said was, "Listen, I'm not going to talk too much because we're emotional, but it's our last game at the Arms Park on Saturday. There's some players in this circle who are going to be playing their last game, and the feeling we've got now, we need to put all that emotion into Edinburgh." And then we had a couple of beers as a group, because I think it's probably not the answer my wife thinks is the best answer, but it's the answer that I find the best. So we stuck together on a couple of beers in the bar. They had Sunday off, and then I like to look forward on a Monday, really. So I don't want the players coming in Monday and dreading a review. So we send our reviews out on a Sunday night on video. We'll ask them a few questions about it Monday, but I think it's important to be look, what's happened. Let's look forward to beating Edinburgh. And they've been great. They've trained really well the last 2 days, so they seem in a pretty positive space.
Yeah, coming into that review process, I'm not going to ask you about individual refereeing decisions, but just overall, do you mind explaining that process of how you have those conversations with individual referees or maybe referee bodies about clarity around decisions, and how you go about that as a club or as a region?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say. No,
I tried to word it as well as I could. But
there's actually a really good process for it. We get a chance to respond by 2:00 on the Tuesday after the game, so we can put clips to the referees' kind of advisors who are obviously employed by the URC, and any kind of queries you've got, you can ask for clarification, and and they're pretty good on coming back on that. This one I sent a voiceover video on Monday. I tried to be as calm and process driven as I could on it, because listen, it's a tough job as well, refereeing. So I wouldn't want to do it. It's pretty tough job. So we just asked for some clarification, and then we get that clarification back off the URC. So the process is pretty good, and but ultimately, whatever the process is, it doesn't change the result. So again, probably going back to your first question, my time's better spent on the pitch rather than worrying too much about something that's happened 48 hours ago, because what are they going to say? They're either going to disagree with me, or they're going to say, yeah, I agree with you, but they're not going to turn the clock back and we replay the situation. So it's useful because you get their thoughts on things, but from experience, it can drain a lot of your time and energy for something you're not going to really get anything from.
I mean, I'm enjoying the image of you going full Razzie Erasmus, bringing out the sort of yellow circles and not getting stuck in.
I did actually think about that. I thought I might send it to a couple of people, see what they think, and then I thought I better not, because it'll end up on Twitter or something.
Just one last thing from Friday. Is there any update on Talupe Faletau? Obviously, we saw him go off holding his arm/shoulder. Has he come in to have it had a look at yet?
No, so he had it scanned on Sunday, but then we're waiting on he's basically had a CT scan that goes a little bit more in depth on the shoulder. So we're waiting for that before there's an absolute certain diagnosis on it. Like, I'll be honest, probably the initial reaction with the pain he's in is it doesn't look like it's just a minor injury, but fingers crossed when the scan comes back, it's not going to be too serious either, because he's obviously worked really hard since the World Cup to come back. He's had a couple of knockbacks with his calf, and like I think I said in press last week, how good was he for 25 minutes again as well? He's had 9 months away, and he's purring around the field, and he's a hell of a player. So, but yeah, just really disappointed for Tobes, really. And listen, he's a resilient bloke as well, and he loves playing rugby still. So that's not the last of certainly won't be the last of we see of Toby. He'll be back in a blue and black shirt before long.
Just to confirm it. It's his shoulder, he's not rebroken the arm, because I think that's what the concern was.
No, it's a shoulder impact.
Okay.
Yeah, one of those really unfortunate ones, really.
Sort of more on the more positive side of the injury front. How good was Theo Cabango's full return after quite a few injury setbacks? His hat trick.
His ghost hat trick, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant, isn't he? He's one of those players, and I did this in my mind. This is what I feel like when I play touch rugby occasionally, but sadly, it's the exact opposite. Is every time he gets a ball, he makes the crowd stand up, doesn't he? Like, even if he's in the smallest of space, you know that you can't take your eyes off the pitch, because in 5 or 6 second time he can be under the post. And I think with Theo, a major attribute of Theo, he's a pretty relaxed character. Theo, don't worry too much. He just goes out on the pitch and does his thing, really. And I think you can see that in how he plays. Very positive player, isn't he? So I love watching Theo play. I thought he was really dangerous at the weekend. Yeah, we're spoiled on the wings, really. You got Josh Mason, Theo. We got Gabe waiting in the wings, Laney, Aled. We got some exciting players there.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and you know, a lot of them are young talents as well coming through. What with a lot of young players, often it's said that teams are going to be inconsistent, isn't it? Because they're going to be on top of the world one week, and then they're going to be learning lessons the next week. What have you made of the consistency levels of the side of the season? Because from the outset, it seems quite remarkable, really.
Yeah, we've been fairly consistent, I think. I don't think kind of the ultimate for a coach is that everything works at once. So you're at your best physically, your defense is purring, your attack's got really good rhythm, like your kicking game's accurate, but very rarely does that happen. It's usually one area of the game will outweigh another. So sometimes if you have a not so good day in defence, but you take a couple of first phase tries and your attack's good, it kind of makes up for it. Sometimes your attack and defence can be a 6 out of 10, but your kicking game's a 9 out of 10, or your scrum gets you out of it. So what I've been pleased about is the basics of our game have been pretty good, and like it's not anything fancy. Your basics are really your effort levels and your passing, your contact area, like your defense, like the things that you can be really solid at, and it keeps you in a game. I've been pretty pleased with that on the whole. Our effort levels each week, I'll be honest with you, probably after 6 or 7 weeks, I was thinking, can the boys keep this up? And they've surprised me with that. It's not really dropped off. I've not ever sat in the stand watching a game thinking, we look like we've given up here, or we're slightly off effort wise. They've been pretty good for that. So I think that's the biggest positive for me to take away, is that I wanted, well, two things, and I know it's a broken record for some, but it's I'm not going to get bored of saying it, is I wanted us, if there was two things that we could have, is you guys watch in the stand and can see that there's pride in the shirt and the city. That's got to be an absolute non-negotiable. And I want people to turn up and enjoy watching how Cardiff play. So I want us to be a positive team. If a player sees space and he wants to go for it, he's got license to. If there's an offload that he thinks he's got control of, he's got license to. And that's not wavered really. We've been pretty positive in how we've played, and that's what's kept us in games really. What we need now to take us on is like probably some of the decision making under pressure. That will come with experience, and experience isn't one season, unfortunately. It's probably when players get between like 23, 24 years of age, that's when they have been in the driving seat for long enough to have the game slowed down and they make better decisions. And if I'm honest as well, it's a tough thing to say, but I think at the end of some of our games, we haven't had much luck. If you think Zebra, 86 minutes, Benetton, red card at the end, 3 points, Connaught, early red card, Scarlett's early red card, Munster, obviously something's been upgraded to a red card with 10 minutes left and we're right in the game. And then it doesn't get any worse in the weekend. So like we could genuinely be on probably 13, 14 more points and in the top 8. And like it's a different narrative then, isn't it? So, but the positive is we've given ourselves a chance to do that, because our fight and our effort has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting ones, because I know when obviously at the start of the season, with it, there was all the whole things of only 8 people turning up for training. The issues with die, which we're definitely not going to go into, because that's a whole can of worms I don't want to open. But actually, thinking back at the start of the season, if you told me we'd be competitive in every game and getting a losing bonus point in all but 3, and 2 of those 3 are to lose in Europe and Leinster, I'd have bitten your hand off for it. So it's and it's quite encouraging actually if you look at performances from like the start of the season to now, because obviously a lot of people perceive this as a more difficult block of fixtures to the start. Actually, it's quite encouraging seeing that attack is looking a lot more polished. All right, some of the passes haven't gone to hand, but yeah, I think it is showing that the team is getting better and probably exceeded a lot of people's expectations. And I think you and the boys have got credit for that.
It's been a good learning curve for me as well, actually, especially this away block now, because I know at the Arms Park we'll always compete, because that's where we come alive. There, it's a great home ground to have, and I can see it in the boys when we're playing at home. There's a lot of confidence there. When you looked at the fixture list and you saw Glasgow, Munster, Ulster away, it was almost right. How are we going to cope with this? Because it is so different on the road. Like we obviously to get to Ulster, we'll travel Thursday morning, get there Thursday, kind of early evening. You've got a whole day in a hotel. Like you walk out at Ulster, and it's a pretty intimidating place. And we've got some young kids, so I was wondering if we'd kind of at some stage if we dip. And I've got to say, there's not been a huge difference away from home than there has at home. We've to be fair to a young group of players, they've coped mentally really well with travelling away, and there's genuinely been no lack of belief as well. There was so much confidence going into the Ulster game. So yeah, I think like we've learned a few lessons on the way. The positive things are as well is what I'm really keen for it to be is not, all right, we'll learn just by playing. I listen because I'm bored and I listen to a few like podcasts and what have you. I shouldn't say that on a podcast, really, should I? And it's making sure that our players, so I'm very keen for our players, difficult to know how to say this, not to just think by playing they're learning, because that's not where it happens. You gain some experience by playing, but your learning happens after by reviewing the game and thinking, right, how would I deal with this differently? What would I do if I'm in this situation again? So there's some individual learning that goes on, and then probably collectively as a group as well, is just making sure that we're really drilling down and saying, right, what were the instances in this game that could have got us over the line, or what's the one or two areas that we feel we need to get better at that takes the game out of a referee's hand. So I'll give you an example. Of the last couple of weeks, we felt the quality of our first three phases and our contact area wasn't allowing us to put enough pressure on the opposition. We felt we're pretty good when we get in the 22. We're in the top half of the league of points scored once we get entries, but we weren't getting enough entries. So it's really important for the players, I think, that they hear from the coaches when we come into the office on a Monday and say, right, these are the two things that we need to do to turn 1 point into 4 points. And again, like we were pretty close to doing that at the weekend. But the positive is we've got the basics there. We've got a group of players who enjoy playing with each other, are proud to play for Cardiff, but we're learning as well. So it's not just all blind effort. We will get there with the technical and tactical sides of the game as well, but that takes a little bit longer.
Finishing off the away block, then you've got after this weekend the fun 2 weeks in South Africa that we have to go to every year. Obviously, this weekend's result may impact that a bit, but what's the sort of aim out there? Is it going to be a bit of rotation, give everybody a chance to experience playing out there, or are we going out there for 2 wins and that's what we're aiming for?
Yeah, we go out there for 2 wins. Yeah, I don't think there's not been a game this season genuinely as well where we've not gone anywhere to win. Like the last 3 weeks, we've gone to 3 of the best teams in the league, and we've the last play of the game we thought we'd won it, and we've had the ball to win in the 2 games before that. If you think of Cardiff in the past, and I've been there as well, so it's not a criticism, is we'd win by 34-12 at the Arms Park, and then we'd go to Glasgow and we'd lose 48-12. And I don't think that's a good team. I think that's a team that rock up at home and then away from home crumble. I'm really keen for us to just be competitive in every game. Obviously, we want to turn the narrow losses into wins, but we're in the fight. Like we're right in the contest, whether we're home or away. So like Edinburgh, we're going to try and beat Edinburgh, and then we'll go to the Lions. No excuses. Like we'll forget the travel, forget altitude. We'll go there to beat them, and then we'll dust ourselves down and try and beat the Sharks. Like obviously, whether we will or not, I can't promise, but that's the goal. I think there'll be some rotation because I think, and again, probably from being in the game, I think it's important to have a healthy environment. And I think players not just being professional trainers thinking that they've got a chance of playing and there's some competition makes the dressing room and the meeting rooms a little bit more buoyant. It's obviously we got a squad of say 40, there's only 23 involved, so there's always 17 not happy. So I think it's really important to reward those players, and if they're in a Cardiff squad, they should be good enough to play for Cardiff. So there will be a bit of rotation, but not at the expense of just giving away experience.
Yeah. That takes us up until, well, Judgment Day, and then Judgment Day will happen, and then the new season. Obviously, membership season tickets went out today. And what would you say to those fans that are perhaps listening to this, hopefully, and thinking, I'm unsure whether to get a season ticket for next season? What would you say? What does second season of Matt Sherratt look like in Cardiff?
What I'd say to them is probably watch some of our games from this season, because I think it's, regardless of the end result, it's been a pretty enjoyable place to be at the Arms Park. We obviously had 2 sellouts in Europe. Had a sellout against Dragons on Boxing Day, which is fairly normal, but with the derbies. But for me, like the Connaught game, I know that there was it was a club day, but I think the fans have been treated to some pretty good rugby this season, really. So definitely the 2 things that they'll see if they come and watch Cardiff whilst I'm there is I'll always be reminding the players to have pride in the shirt, so that effort level will never drop, and they're going to watch a team that plays positive rugby. So I'll tell you the story. Actually, I took my boy to 3 things last year. So I took him to watch 100 game Gloucestershire. I took him to watch Liverpool Tottenham, and I took him to watch Gloucester London Irish. This is like 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And the 100 game, he stayed to the end. He loved it. Liverpool game, he stayed to the end. He loved it. And at 53 minutes, Gloucester London Irish, he asked to go home. And I thought, like, how sad is it that the only sport that he's wanted to leave because he's bored is a rugby match? And I don't think we can't have that in the sport. I want people to come and enjoy watching us play. I'm not saying that's more important than the result, but I think you've got to strive to have both. I want people walking in the doors at the Arms Park knowing that we're going to watch a team who are going to not try and entertain, but are going to try and be positive, that if they see space, they're going to try and attack it. If they kick, it's going to be for the reason to get the ball back. And the players play without anxiety. They're not afraid to make mistakes. So they're the 2 things that I can pretty much guarantee, that we'll be brave with how we play, and we'll be physically brave as well.
Just looking ahead to the squad for next season, obviously I'm sure we'll have some announcements over the next few weeks now, but just on a general level, sort of like 2 elements to this. What areas of the squad are you looking to strengthen, and is it going to follow? I think we've seen a bit of a pattern this year. Tinas has come in from the Curry Cup, where we've never really picked anyone up from before. And Donald's come in from sort of the fringes of the Gloucester squad. It's new areas that we're looking to recruit from, rather than same old sort of couple of lads from the other Welsh regions and then 1 or 2 sort of big names from Super Rugby type thing. Is that something that could continue?
Yeah. So listen, I think where budgets are at the moment, I don't want to get gloom and doom with it. I think we've got to get away from like budget talk. Is whatever squad we've got to try and maximise its potential. So we've just got to try and make whatever squad we've got overperform. But I think the days are gone now, especially at the moment, where you're going for the top end players in Super Rugby whose salaries start with like 3s, really. Like that's not the way to go with a 4.5 million salary cap, which is in place at the moment. So the first place to look for me, and I think about Cardiff, right? And I think, right, forget negativity, is what are our unique selling points? Our 2 unique selling points for me are our academy. Our region should be the golden egg in terms of talent. Look at the Ronda front row: Teddy Williams, Seb Davis, Alex Mann, Cam Winnett, Ellis Jenkins, Mackenzie Martin, Lucas De La Rua, Benny Thomas, Mason Grady. It's unbelievable. They're all Cardiff boys. Like I'm from Gloucester. I was chatting to one of the Gloucester coaches on the way home in the car today. There's not one lad from Gloucester at the moment playing for Gloucester. It shouldn't be like that. So the first place we need to look to recruit is the boys who have grown up watching Cardiff play at the Arms Park. We've got to put everything into that because it's a unique selling point. Our second unique selling point is where the stadium is. It's right in the middle of one of the best cities in the world. That will get players to Cardiff. So first and foremost is let's get players for our academy. Secondly, when we're looking to recruit players, let's show them the city, because you're 25 minutes from a beach, you're 10 minutes from the train station, you've got Butte Park, you've got the castle, you've got comedy, you've got cricket, you've got football. It's a brilliant place to come and live for a young lad, especially, or someone with a family. So yeah, sorry, to answer your question, academy first, and then it's trying to. I know I want to play at Cardiff, so it's not just recruiting but blindly. It's about what player looks like a Cardiff player. I've got in my mind in each position what a Cardiff player looks like. So it's obviously you're shopping at the right levels in terms of budget wise, but it's still got to be someone who looks like that they can play in a Cardiff shirt. You look at Tinas as an example. He's brave, and he's all out there. He will offload. Look at his offload to Gonzalo at the end against Ulster. Look at Ben Donnell. He did a reverse pass in about the 15th minute against Ulster. I watched his clips when he was at London Irish. He's fast. He offloads. He's a Cardiff player. That's what we've got to try and find. So it's not going to be right at the top end of the international game. We're going to have to work really hard to try and, as I said, firstly, find it in the region. And then secondly, maybe around, Currie Cup level and, ITM Cup in overseas. But only the right type of player, no one that's blocking our players coming through the pathway. Probably squad-wise, where we're like, just to answer your questions. Obviously, Lou said with Reece leaving, at the moment we've only got Corey Domachowski and Reece Barrett in contract, so that's a priority position. Obviously, with Thomas Williams leaving at the moment, we've only got Ellis Bevan in contract, so that's another priority. They're the two biggies, really. The rest of the squad are probably short of maybe a back or two as well, and potentially around the lock area. But a lot of that will depend on budget and if the right player's out there. If the right player's not out there, I think we go with what we've got and wait until we get the right player, because we're not in any position to be wasting money.
That's encouraging. I think that'll be encouraging for people to hear who've maybe argued we've gone and splashed out money on the wrong players in the past. Just sort of go into the thing about developing from within the academy. Obviously, it's still very early days, and we're still not entirely sure how it's going to work. But with the EDC coming into place and the Rags moving up to that, how do you think that's going to fit into your plans to develop the next Mackenzie Martin cam with it?
Yeah, in fact, that's a good question, that, because it's probably something I haven't thought of, but it's, again, like, my mindset is what's right with Cardiff and Welsh rugby, not what's wrong with it. And I think having obviously Cardiff RFC and Cardiff Rugby playing on the same pitch with, like, obviously Dan Fish will be coaching. He obviously coached the RFC at the moment, but he'll coach the EDC. Josh Turnbull will be involved, Craig Everett and Griff. Like, we're having breakfast with them most mornings. So, like, the transition for our players playing in the EDC, getting the same technical and tactical coaching and the same language being used, and like how easy it is for me just to speak to Fishy on a Monday morning and say, how did Will Davis King go at the weekend, or Reece Barrett is massive. And I don't know another club like that. It's pretty unique. So I think that EDC competition with the right coaches in it, and it'll probably take a little bit of time to find its way, I would imagine, as a competition. But I think it'll be great for us. Like, if Steph Emmanuel, let's see how he goes, and Tom Bowen, but yeah, he could find himself playing against some pretty experienced, playing with some pretty experienced players and some experienced coaches in that league.
Yeah, you've almost set up one of our other questions, which was about Steph Emmanuel and looking ahead to their progression. Is there someone that you're aware of that's coming through that perhaps hasn't had the game time this season that might get the game time next season you're excited to see, or a couple of names?
Do you know what? Probably this season, everyone who's been just under the radar has poked their heads above it really, and ended up in a red shirt as well as a Cardiff one, haven't they? So I think there's more to come from Lucas de la Rua, and you know, I'll probably mention a couple of lads as well. He's not off the radar, and he's not he's not a young player anymore. But I think Harry Millard and Gabe have got big futures there as well. He's been a little bit unfortunate with injuries, Harry, and then Gabe come in and started off really well. He was obviously only on a short-term contract, so I'm pretty excited to see how those two boys go next season. I think with a regular run of games, they could become really good players for Cardiff. Lucas de la Rue as well. He's played a little bit at the start of the season. Pretty competitive with the 20s. I think he can come through, and probably the two lads you've mentioned then. I think I looked at Steph's footage, I think it was October, November time, and Griff sent me some of his footage from like Wales 18s and when he played for Bath, and he was someone that straight away, I'll be honest, I looked at, and his basics are really good, and I was almost trying to find something that, right, we can improve you in that area. I'm not saying 18 he's the finished product, but like little things, he catches early, his ball presentation is really good, his work off the ball is good. So he made like a last ditch tackle, I think it was against England 18s. He got up off the floor and run on a diagonal and stop somebody. Just before the ball's getting to him, he scans to see where the defense is, and I think if we can nurture that, he could be pretty good for us. But it's making sure that we get that right as well. So listen, he's 18, so we're not just going to chuck him in. We'll see how he goes in pre-season. But if there's one thing I've learned this year, is not to discount players because of youth. Like if you put them in there, they learn pretty quickly. They're not going to get better by sitting on the sideline. So I think it's how we integrate those type of players really. Is because I've been really mindful as well with the likes of, say, Cam and Manny. If you think the trajectory that their careers have taken this season, it's brilliant to watch. But their probably stress levels and their load into how much they've played and trained is, I'm making the number up now, but I would imagine it's gone up by at least 50%. So like, we've got to show a real care of duty for those boys as well. And I actually remember Toby Booth saying when he was at London Irish, it's important to know when to sometimes give players a rest, not letting young players go one game too many and they fall off a cliff and their last memory is a bad one. It's sometimes letting the likes of Alex Mann have a really good game, but then saying, do you know what, mate, we're going to give you 2 weeks to yourself now, and we're going to give Shane Lewis-Hughes or Jim Botham a game. Like, I think I've been watching that pretty carefully this year. It's been difficult to rest them because they've played so well, but sometimes if they're not playing, take it that they're getting a rest rather than they're not playing because of performance.
Just on Steph Manuel quickly, it might be a bit early to say, but more 12 than 13?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's played around a little bit. I think he played actually a little bit at 10 as well, but I look at him as a 12. So like the back line that I like is I like running threats at 9 and 10. Like, I think having a 9, you think Thomas, we've been spoilt with. He's a brilliant player, Tommy. But defenses can't take their eyes off him. Tinas can take the ball to the line. I like a 12 who's a second playmaker. So obviously like a Ben Thomas, Jacob Beetham can probably play 12 as well, I think. Steph Emmanuel type. I like a 13, like Ray, basically. A 13 who's more of a carrier and can fend and can offload to Mason, basically, and Ray. And I like a a big winger and a stepper. So say a Theo and someone like a Mace or a Jadzi on the other wing are a more power athletes. And then a 15, say when obviously Gareth Hanscom played for us, who like we want to have ball movement as a Cardiff team. So I think we need a 10, 12 and a 15 who can step up as first receivers. That's how I see a backline. My idea, you can't always get that, but that would be my ideal backline. Yeah. So at the moment, I see Steph in that role as someone who can step in and distribute. But I think the advantage he's got as well, and actually Max Llewellyn really improved on this as well. His distribution got much better as well, Max. So hopefully Steph will have the double threat he can carry. But like I like, you know, as I said, I like 12s who play in a Cardiff shirt to be able to move the ball.
Yeah, that sounds. It sounds like we almost need to bring you on to hear like your 15 dream Cardiff players in each number. But we did note down a question like, who is, if you could bring back one ex Cardiff player to play in your current side and play in your system, who would it be and why?
That's quite a good question, that. Probably the obvious one, I suppose, is after I just talked about a 9 who's a running threat would be Sir Gareth. He'd be all right, wouldn't he? As a 9, I think I could see him off our first ruck, off an edge, running with the ball and interesting a few defenders. Who else? I used to really like Ben Blair as well when he was at Cardiff. John Lomu would be quite nice as well. I think he'd be all right. Yeah, so I'll probably give the obvious answer there. The number 9 to Gareth would be quite nice with Tinas and Callum Sheedy next year, wouldn't
he? Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic answer. I think what we might do is we'll put that question out to the listeners as well to see what weird and wonderful names come up for there.
Yeah, the team
I guarantee at least 2 members of CF10 who will say Dan Fish because it is the right answer.
You won't be getting that. You won't be getting that answer off me. I'll tell you something you wouldn't either. You wouldn't get that. You definitely wouldn't get that answer off Gethin Jenkins.
Sort of moving, sort of stepping up from the regional game. What are your thoughts on the heavy Cardiff representation in the last Wales squad? You know, is it a bit frustrating because you're losing players to Wales, or is it, you know, a really great thing because, you know, it just shows how good a job you and the boys have done?
No, I loved it. I genuinely, it was probably, I'll be honest with you, probably one of the proudest moments I've had coaching, really, when that squad was announced, and I think we had 11 in there. I actually felt pretty emotional reading the list, and it was just before we went into a team meeting, especially because obviously I don't think you can ever take it for granted. Like the likes of Josh Adams and Thomas Williams, it's still every announcement is still a pretty special day for them because it's wearing a Wales shirt. But I think having like obviously Mackenzie in it, Alex Mann, Cam Winnett, Evan Lloyd in particular, like Teddy getting back in and Mason, like to have like the privilege of watching a young group of players really fulfill their dream it's a pretty cool job to have, really, isn't it? So like I walked into the team room and I think the boys had just had emails as well, and you could see there was a fair bit of emotion with like Evan Lloyd, and like you could just feel in the room that there was a fair bit of like pride from some of the the older boys as well, that the young lads got in there. So I'd love it if we had more of the same in the summer. It makes my job a little bit more difficult because we haven't got numbers for training, but like it's as I said to you at the start, if I want players to come to Cardiff and think that they're going to develop and get a chance to wear in a Cardiff shirt, it's only going to be good for Cardiff long term. So let's hope we get more of the same, I think.
That's interesting to say more of the same, just because is there not a slight element that says a couple of those young lads, like you mentioned, Alex Mann and Mackenzie Martin, with the heavy workload, a summer off might help them long term? Or
I don't think so. I think that's probably more towards like the end of your careers, having a summer off. And look, I'll give Ellis Jenkins as an example. Ellis could have easily been a 50, 100 capper, couldn't he? You never know in this game how many times you're going to be able to pull on a red shirt. So if you're fit and healthy, like take the chance when it comes, because it's what you play for. It's what your mum and dad have taken you to games of rugby for. So to give your family the opportunity to go and watch you play for Wales is something that I don't think you can. I don't think you can think too far in the future, really, for those young boys. Sometimes someone who's got 50, 60 caps, if they feel that they need a summer off and it fits with a Welsh squad, then it's not a bad idea. But for those young boys, we'll make sure we look after them when they come back to us.
Yeah, for those young boys, especially Alex and Cam in particular, when you were with that squad of 8 at the start of the season, were you looking at them? What odds would you have had on them getting into the international squad and taking it to the duck, like a duck to water, like they have? Have they surprised you how well they've taken to regional rugby first and foremost, and then the international scene, or were you expecting it almost?
Nah, the smart answer would be yeah, I knew all along, but I didn't. I didn't have a clue. I didn't actually know Cam and Manny that well really before the start of this season. I also like as well every time we mention pre-season that the number goes down. Will be a touch game between me, Richie Reese, and Gethin Jenkins before long in the off season. But no, so obviously those boys come in. I was really impressed straight away was their maturity. Like you kind of, as a coach, and I think senior players do this as well, and it's always interesting to hear the senior players' opinion as well. Is like it's quite daunting starting training with a first team squad. So say for the likes of Alex Mann or a Stefan Manuel next year, he's grown up really watching Toby and Josh Adams and Reece Priestland, who was here last year, and this to go from playing school or academy or under 20s to actually right now they're my teammates and I've got to train with them is quite daunting. So I always just watch. It's not even sometimes how they play, it's just how they carry themselves when they come onto the pitch. And some players you can just see they stroll onto the field and you think, yeah, they believe that they belong there. And that happens at different stages with players as well. So sometimes you can see it quite early. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. But with Cam and Manny in particular, they never look stressed. They look like they have time on the ball. They look like players that if you give them some information, by the time the next session come around, they've kept that information and they were able to build on it. So they give you little signs with their temperament and their ability to improve that they were going to be good players. I didn't obviously know that they were going to get picked so soon in the Six Nations, but genuinely when they got into the Six Nations, because of their temperaments, I knew they'd be all right. They're pretty level-headed kids, and if they do get flustered, they hide it pretty well. So you could definitely see there was something in them that they could play at that level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions on our list. Just a couple of standard ones we ask all the guests. So just very quickly, North Stand or South Stand?
I haven't got a clue, to be honest. Not North.
Moving on. I think. Yeah, and then the other one, which is always a silly one, is what's your favourite kind of biscuit?
Probably a milk chocolate digestive for me, I think.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's unless Cohen or Dan have any questions. You spend a lot of time answering it.
Yeah, we could be here for 3 years. Like, asking
So
questions,
you
I
spend a
think.
lot of time. Yeah. So you spend a lot of time asking, answering questions from the media, people like us. Are there any questions you've got for us that you'd like to ask us at all?
Not really. Probably something I would like to say. Not this isn't anything to do with like that I should say, but what probably to thank you guys as well, and like the supporters in general this season, is like genuinely the positivity around like the messaging from you guys, and like the support that the not just the match day crowd, but I think like it's been really eye-opening for me. Probably something that has changed about being a head coach is like more people will have a chat with you when you walk for a coffee in Cardiff, but the general positivity around the place genuinely has a massive effect on the players and the staff. And I've been on the other side of that at other clubs, and it genuinely doesn't help. So I know it's the coachy thing to do, but genuinely, like for you guys with your messaging around social media and how supporters you've been for the players, it makes such a big difference to us. So like probably like on behalf of the like players, but myself personally as well, like thanks for how positive you've been around the club as well, because listen, we knew it's going to be a tough season. Like next season will be tough as well. Again, I'm not going to make excuses, but we're in a period that I kind of phrase it, we fought this season. We've shown a lot of fight. Next season, we've got to grow a little bit, but it's still going to be slow growth. It's not going to be a quick fix. And just to re-emphasize, really, your support around that has really helped a young group of players and a team stay pretty connected with each other and with you guys. So thanks for that, really.
Well, thanks for your time, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Right, no problem.
Yeah, I think that positivity has worked both ways, though. In fairness, I think the positivity we've seen on the pitch has been something that the fans have really bought into, and long may it continue.
Yeah. Is there anything else from you guys in terms of what you'd like to see around the club, or anything that we could do as a club to make supporting Cardiff easier for you? I know not winning the Heineken Cup, I know that would make it easier, but I promise that one.
If you could sort some more consistent kickoff times, I don't know if you've got that sort of power, but
What about your connection with like the players and things? How do you find that on match days? I love on a match day. I think again, what's unique about Cardiff, we're the only team that gets a crowd on the pitch after that. Like for me, that's a throwback to the 80s and early 90s where the crowd was loud on the pitch. I think that's really important. Is there anything around the match day where you think we can engage better as a club?
Go on, Dan.
I think it's probably the best it's been for a few years at the moment. We're all, I think, slightly out of that. It's mainly for sort of young kids and stuff. There's been the most young supporters around the ground that I've seen for a long time. You can get stuck into lower crowds, and the average age is about like 50 of all of us who are just sort of stood there and have been for years and probably won't go anywhere. But
getting older, or the crowds are getting younger?
Yeah, the crowds are. But I think just the way the lads like Mackenzie and stuff have really bought into their local community and getting out, not just on match day, but getting out. You see him at Kyrili on a Sunday morning and getting involved with the clubs. I think that probably happens a lot more as well. I think the club could probably perhaps send cameras with those sort of guys and get stuck in and show them getting into coaching and getting that young next generation involved. But it's where it is at the moment is really good, and that's come, our positivity, that, like Aaron said, comes from the club. I don't think we've generated that. We've bought into what you guys are doing because of the messaging from you guys. So as much as I think a lot of people, the support does deserve credit for sticking with the side when we haven't been winning much this season. I think that's because of the work you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think as well on this weekend, I'm quite keen for obviously we will have some leavers. All the leavers are not confirmed yet, but say the likes of Thomas, who has been confirmed, and Reece Carre, and there will be some others. Is that after the game, regardless of the result, obviously the players will have a huddle on the pitch. But then I'm keen for the whole of the matchday squad to come on the pitch. So the likes of Tommy, who's injured, and Josh Turnbull and Ellis, who we've just found out is retiring, and Reece Carre, he's a Cardiff lad. I'm really keen for them to be on the pitch. So like as supporters, and obviously a lot of the younger supporters can come and wish them well as well. I think that'll be quite a nice touch if you guys wouldn't mind spreading the word on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll start tweeting that out as soon as this pod goes out, which will probably Wednesday morning, as we're recording Tuesday night. But just to echo on and say, some of my fondest memories have been at Cardiff Arms Park, going onto the pitch, chatting with players, win or lose. They always make time for fans, even though it hurts. Particularly in losses when they do it, and you can tell it hurts them a bit. Fun memories, because I tend to stand in the sort of crazy corner with the drums, and you have Willis and Ray jumping over the holdings to come and sing and dance with us all. It's it's just great fun, and I do find the players are always really well engaging. So I'd say maybe with social media, keep up the good work with the promotions. So whether it was for Clubs Day or when they have a Friday or Saturday night fixture, making it big students. I think that some of that marketing side of things has been really good this season.
Yeah, you don't have to say that because Mike's listening.
I didn't want to blow smoke, but I have been really impressed with the video content that's gone out. For the big occasions, the Cam Sheedy signing, the season tickets. I thought that was a really good video, really nice poem put together. I just think it's adding to that positivity around the club, which is really great. We sometimes get a bit of stick about that we see the positivity and are seeing the positivity in everything, but I think that's how everyone feels at the moment when they go to watch Cardiff. It's an expectation there that they're going to see a good rugby, going to see a team that's competitive, but also going to, regardless of result, be proud of the performance. And I think that's a really good thing going forward.
Good. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you as ever for your time, Matt. It's been great listening to you. I know. Certainly, when we found out you were coming on, I was very, very excited and did a little weird schoolgirl dance in the middle of the kitchen just to try and get a hold of myself. But
You haven't put the best thought in my mind before bedtime now.
Sorry. It's even worse if you ever see me dance.
Well, let's hope we do that on Saturday afternoon, maybe.
Oh, absolutely! I think that'll be one for the YouTube channel. Once again, thank you so much for all your time, Matt. Thank you, Colin and Dan, for joining me, and thank you all for listening.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.